think he grew up in Houston. I'm going to have to ask and find out. But at any rate, I'm excited for you to meet Lucas. He has really a lovely, comes from a beautiful family. And he's doing some work right now with the Connect Conference, which is really cool. It's a pan-Orthodox young adult conference. It's coming up in Dallas in October 8th through 10th of 2021, so coming right up. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a single young adult in the Orthodox Church, and why do we need young adult conferences, and what are we doing? So we've got a lot to talk about with Lucas. So Lucas, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Lisa. How are you doing?
I am doing really well. Well, I'm a little hectic because I've been running around trying to make my computers work. But other than that, I'm doing well. How are you, Lucas? How are things going for you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate it. I know that you really, the IT issues are really just a facade because I was uncomfortable that you sounded so much clearer than I did. And so I'm very thankful for that.
That's exactly it. It's just my humility, just trying to make you comfortable.
Yes.
So Lucas, of course, I already know you, but the audience doesn't. So I want to start right from the very beginning. And actually, I don't know a lot of your backstory exactly. Where were you born?
So I was born in New York, but moved to Houston when I was 3 years old. So you're right, I was raised in Houston. And just moved to Houston for my dad's work, and was in Houston for my childhood until I went to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, and that brought me to Dallas when I was 18, and then found a job through SMU's recruiting program in finance, and I've been based in Dallas ever since. But fortunate enough to be able to travel around through work, which has allowed me to visit different places and spend a lot of time with my family also.
Oh, that's excellent. And I know that you are really close with your family. I have that feeling. I know that you have sisters and you're close with them. Tell me about your family. Like, is your family, are they all Greek immigrants? Are both of your parents Greek? Like, what is kind of the background of your family, and what sort of folks are they?
Sure. So they're both come from Greek backgrounds. Mainly, my with one exception, my grandfather, Father Nick Trandafilou, who I know you're familiar with.
Yeah.
He was actually only half Greek. His mother was British, but the rest of my great grandparents come from Greece at some point. So the Greek blood is strong, but not fully Greek. And obviously, since my grandparents were raised in the States, I'm third generation.
Okay, so you're really Greek American in the full
Greek
sense, because your family's been here quite a while. And okay, well, so let's talk about Father Nick, because in Texas, Father Nick is famous, and I know he looms large really nationally in the Greek community because of his work at Hellenic. But tell me, what's your grandfather like, and tell people why I know who he is.
Well, I'll refer to him affectionately as Papu because I don't know him as anything else. But he was born in the 30s in Boston, became a priest pretty young in his life after school, and his first long assignment was actually in Houston, which was tough for I know. For them for a bit, I think, to leave the East Coast because they're from New England. But he was the priest at Annunciation in Houston for 22 years, which made it really nice when we came back to Houston just by happenstance with my dad's job, because there's so many families who knew him. And so it's always been a treat to hear stories of his ministry. And as a kid, people would always come up to me and say, "Your grandfather married me," and that was really alarming as a toddler. Because I really had no idea what that meant. I was confused because I knew I only had two yayas and only one of them was married to Father Nick.
It is alarming too. Well, it's always funny too, because I remember the Greek community, they always say that he married me, or like, oh, and I just baptized my nephew, and you're like, well, you're not a priest. How did you baptize your? And it means that they're the godparent. But it took me a while. It's so cute. It's funny, but I love that. I love that. That was terrifying. But when your family moved down to Houston, though, Father Nick wasn't still at Annunciation, right?
No, he was at that point. He was in Charlotte, and he did a short stint in Charlotte before he went up to the seminary of the school, Hellenic College Holy Cross, where he was president from 2000 to 2015.
That's right.
And
right.
So he also got to know a lot of people that way, obviously. And then I guess I skipped over the part where you asked me to hit on.
Yeah, you completely missed my parish.
Yeah.
Of course, your grandfather founded our parish, but he was when he was in Houston, he would drive up to Austin to do, little liturgies with a small group of Orthodox people here who wanted to build a church, and kind of helped build up that community until it was ready to be a mission. And so Father Nick presided over, like all of our founding documents in our parish and stuff. So we love Father Nick. We really think of him as like the papu of our parish, which is kind of, it's a neat thing. We're proud because it's interesting to me. People are proud specifically that it's Father Nick who founded our parish because he's so well loved, and he's so respected. And I think, and of course, as you said, he became the president at Hellenic, right? Like he became this person, Hellenic Holy Cross. He is clearly well respected throughout the area. I think so that, sometimes that makes you think that someone who's very dignified and well respected and well educated and all of this, that they would be sort of cold or something. But I feel like Father Nick was really warm. I assume for your experience, he must have been just a very sweet papu. Is that right?
He is a very sweet papu. And the thing that struck me, I'd say most, I could tell stories about him all night, but what struck me most looking back, what strikes me most looking back, is that he was very, basically never explicitly talking to me about my faith, my spiritual life. He really just wanted to connect with me in other ways. And what I think that did, at least personally, I know it doesn't work the same for everyone, but it always had me leaning in to want to know about what gave him that peace and that smile, that joy, and that humility, because I knew he wore I saw the collar. I knew that he obviously had a strong spiritual life, but he was never really talking about it to me until I started asking him about it. And then, of course, he was willing to share. But that's the lesson I hope to take for my family from him is that you give kids time to come to ask the questions, because it always puzzled me that he's a priest and he never talks about God to me. Why isn't he talking about God more? That was kind of always in the back of my mind. But I think looking back, I think he knew that at some point I'd start to ask him and he'd have a chance to share.
That's really lovely to think that he waited on that. And I think too, like you just said, you see this peace in him and this beauty, and you're thinking like, oh, does that come from God? It makes you curious, right? And it's that beautiful idea, preach always. What is it? Preach always about Christ, but only use words sometimes. I'm totally messing that up, but you know what I'm saying? This idea of spreading the gospel and evangelizing just with your example. And, your grandfather was doing that in your life. That's really lovely. But as you mentioned, you could probably tell stories about him all night. Out of curiosity, do you have one favorite story about him that's fun, like that would give us a picture of how he is as a grandpa, especially when you were young? And, well, maybe not. Maybe how he is with a grandson who's 26. I don't know.
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. I've got so many stories, but I guess the first one that comes to mind, and this is very easily is not the best story to tell, but the first one that comes to mind is we were walking in the streets of Manhattan one time, and Papu, someone asked us for money, and Papu, was never someone of tons of material wealth. Because I hear stories all the time about how the compensation of priests back in the day, especially, was not super great. But anyway, Papu somehow on this day has a wad of cash with him, which is kind of ironic. But he got tons of cash, and the man asks him for money, and he pulls out like what looked to me at the time like thousands of dollars. It was was probably 100 or something, and he was so comfortable with this man talking to him, and the man, he said, well, he said, of course, and he got to know him. He asked his name. He said what, and he teased him. He turned him into a friend. And I just had never seen anyone do that. And so that really stuck with me. And the reason I bring up the cast is because it's like I was petrified that he was the guy who's gonna get mugged. That I was scared of him. Papu showed me that no, he was trusting of this person. He wanted to invite this person into his life, regardless of the risk that was visible there. Because to me it was a high risk situation, but to him it was just a brother. It was truly a brother of Christ. And that story, that's just one that sticks in my mind.
That is beautiful. That really is. And it's interesting too, because we think about it, and of course, when there's someone on the street who needs money, they need money, but we need comfort like that, right? We need friends. We need love. We need someone to trust us and to smile at us. And maybe in some ways people need that more than money, and maybe it's harder to come by than money. So it is really beautiful. Absolutely. I like that story very much. Was your grandfather involved in the founding of the IOCC? Is that right? Or am I off? Because I think your uncle was like chairman of the IOCC at some point, right?
So yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, or am I?
Yeah. So yeah, of course, Dean. So Dean is the president. That's
yeah.
My uncle Dean is president currently. Papu, right. I don't think if he's part of the founding, that story didn't make it into the ones that got to me.
He may not be. He may not be. It may just be that it was Dean's involvement. I just kind of figured it was a family thing. I could be totally making that up.
Well, Papu's been on the board. But if I don't think he's part of the founding. I think that we owe that thanks to someone else. But certainly a very dear to his heart.
Well, so tell me, so Father Nick, I would assume, is your mom's dad, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So what's your mom like? How does she grow up? She was a priest kid. Was she wild? Sometimes they say priest kids, they say that they go crazy because there's so much pressure from the parish to look like you have the perfect family, right? But I don't know. Most of the priest kids I know, I hear that, but what I really see is a lot of lovely, faithful, sweet people. What was your mom like growing up, and what's she like now?
Yeah, probably lovely, sweet, faithful. I think that's a fair description. Yeah, I'm always involved in the church. It was always the most important thing I'd say to her, that I was, the most important thing was probably just union and love and a relationship with each other. Yeah. But shortly after that was, making sure I was in church with her. She was always consistent with that. And, when I'm in Houston, we teach Sunday school together now, which is a joy. And
oh wow,
yeah, she's a very, very admirable mother.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really lovely. So your mom would have then grown up, I guess, for part of her life in Houston, and then got married and was able to move back and raise you guys up. Tell me, how many siblings do you have, and what was your family like?
Yes, I've got two sisters. Both have had the opportunity of being at camp with you. I don't think Artemis was ever in your cabin, but I know Kiriaki was.
Yeah, I've had Kiriaki a few times, and then Artemis is
a few times.
One of my daughters. So
Yes.
I have daughters, both of their ages, who are like camp buddies with them, and it's just they're great girls. They're really dramatic. Right? Like, are they both in theater? I feel like, not dramatic in a bad way, but I just feel like they're both like good presenters and good public speakers. And you are too. Is this kind of something that runs in your family?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm a good speaker, but they are very talented. And we all were in theater. Yes. We all have been involved in acting and singing, and we've been on stage plenty. And Artemis just began her experience at SMU, where she's She's planning on studying theater and psychology, so she's stuck with it longer than I have. And then Kitty Keys, she can do whatever she wants. She's uber talented. But yes, I'm very thankful. I think there are pros and cons to the arts, being super involved in the arts, in the sense that I always preferred for them to be hanging out with, say, their church friends than their theater friends, I would say. But I'm very thankful for the things we've learned through theater, and the talents, the talents that God has